the October 15th, 2025, and this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. We are going to start with the pledge if you'd like to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is 5:30, by the way. That's just 5:30. Okay, roll call, please, Randy.
Trustee Winslow,
Present.
Trustee Kidda,
Here.
Trustee Leighton,
Here.
Trustee Everson,
Here.
Treasurer Rickower,
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas, our Attorney Roger Zappa, our Fire Chief Dan Shanahan is here, and on Zoom is our Superintendent of Public Works Lenny Bodinas.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment? Probably not. We have no public tonight. So first, we need approval of the consent agenda, which tonight consists of approval of special meeting minutes of September 29th. Oh, we got too many numbers in there. 2025, and regular meeting minutes and closed session minutes of October 1st. Also, bills payable in the amount of $455,967.92. We have the sheriff's activity report from September of 2025. And Linda gave us the Housing Now Community Dialogue Series PowerPoint from that meeting last week. That was pretty interesting. And then financially, we've got September 2025's financials.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And if there's no changes, we just need to,
I'll move to approve the regular agenda.
Support.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, now let's start with the fire department report.
Good evening. Well, nice thing is I don't have to compete with anybody tonight.
They can talk all night.
Yeah, we had some pretty good speakers here last couple times, and I come up and just say, oh, I try and be short though. Just real quick, I know I wasn't here last month, but I'd just like to bring up, we were able to get the propane training up here again. That's every 5 years. Michigan Propane Gas Association comes up, and it's the one with the big fire and everything. It's a lot of fun, especially for the new guy, and for us old guys too. We still enjoy it. One of these times I'll have to send you guys a picture, because they put out a big or Michigan Propane Gas has a nice display, a bunch of pictures of the guys working with the propane and the fire, and it is cool because it happens right around dark time. By the time we get over there to the mall, and that's where we do it at. Guys are also busy that month too. It's a very busy month. Last month they had the static display at Community Days on the Ore to Shore. They had National Night Out at Redeemer, and they also did the Texas Roadhouse static display. And training for October, which we already did, we switched our meeting and training night around. We were fortunate, UPCO, the two houses at the Forestville Dam, at UPCO Dam there, they let us have one, to use one of them, which is a very rare opportunity. So we've already been over there once, just did some ventilation, some search, forcible entry, those types of things. And we'll get back over there again, because it doesn't happen too often. They're gonna have them for a little while, so we were fortunate. We also did, late September, like the last day of September, we did auto extrication. We also we made that a two-nighter, did it a Thursday and a Monday night. We trained also with Chocolate on the lecture part of it. Assistant Chief Kidd from Chocolate came in. He's been on 131, which you were on too for many years, and he came in. And it's just nice to get a different perspective. You know, we know how to do things our way. You know, maybe there is a different way, so that worked out real well. And then we got some cars, cut them up, and what else did we do? Our intern did start with us September 30th, right when school started. And he also is applying, or has applied, to be a member of a department. He will be 18 soon. Fire Prevention Week was last week. We did have, our ambulance is up and in service. We did pass the state inspection. And we had our, I know I'm jumping ahead of myself for next month, but we did have, it's a big thing though. We had our state EMS agency inspection last week, and we passed again at 100%, like we always do. And that's to them, that's to Lauren, and those guys do a great job with that. And that's a big job too. And I think that's really, in a nutshell, trying to be. We got new computers too, so I just was able to print these up real quick before I came over. I was trying to locate printers. But yeah, unless you have any questions on anything. The propane was always a big hit for us, propane treating. It's fun.
It is
Good
impressive.
pictures.
It's impressive.
It is. The flames shoot up, and then the sound of the fire and everything, it's neat.
That's why you do what you do, I guess.
It is, yeah. Sometimes we have fun stuff too, besides, yeah. So,
Any questions for Dan?
question,
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, we
Yep,
appreciate you
have a good
being
night.
here. You too. Public Works, Lenny?
Hello, everyone. So we can start with wastewater here. As always, this is kind of an ongoing thing that we do, so I got to mention it every month. We always get routine grinder pump failures and repairs and replacements. Just kind of a thing that we do all the time. We also been doing some inspection of our sewer mains again, and we were on our sewer interceptor line. While we found, doing some inspection, we found that there were some roots, I believe it was right behind Marthaler, kind of in that area, because that's actually part of where interceptor goes. They found some roots, but they were actually able to get down there and get them removed. And I believe they even got that new camera down in there looking, and they were able to get everything. That's just one big thing that we do, is just constant inspection of our manholes and our lines, and we hope to find problems before they become big problems, and at least where we can fix them before there's any kind of overflow. We made a new sewer connection on Norwood Street, and we do have some upcoming sewer connections coming up here within the next few weeks. Everybody's trying to get all their work done here before winter time, so we're kind of busy. On the NPS project, the culvert project on Huron Street, we did do some relocation, or actually the contractor did it, but we were there, of the sewer main and the water main. So we got that successfully relocated and back in place. We anticipate more relocation on Norwood Street, so that would be coming up here within the next week on that. On the water side, winterization of hydrants is ongoing. So we basically go through all the hydrants, make sure that there's no water in the barrels, make sure everything's, the caps are greased up and everything looks good for wintertime. I'm sure the last thing Dan wants to find is a frozen hydrant that we didn't get in the wintertime. So we make sure we go through everything, and everything is looking good there, and at least is drained, so they don't freeze, and when the fire department needs them, they can use them. We've been making some repairs to some of our PRVs. There was one on Cedarville that we had to put some new parts in. We also have a yearly calibration that will be happening here within the next week or two. Basically, we have a technician comes up, and with our help, we go through and we calibrate all our PRVs and make sure the settings are correct. And if they're not, get them the calibrations put correct. And if there's any problems with the PRV, to make sure that they're repaired. So basically, what those do is they help. We have some areas in the township that have high pressure, too high of pressure, and this kind of helps regulate the pressure around the township to a better level. While homeowners might like high pressure, they can take a really good shower. It is very hard on things like toilets and valves and a lot of our parts that we have just in our system. High pressure is not really good for that kind of stuff, at least a high pressure that's ongoing. We've taken a lot of our routine water samples. They've come back. Our water quality is excellent. We don't have any violations. So we took everything from nitrates to PFAS to RA226 radium, or I forgot what some of the other things were, but it was just basically a full gamut of tests that we took this time around, and everything came back good. One thing that I don't have on here for water is actually two things. We had members of our staff went to limited treatment and distribution training in Ishpeming Township last week. So basically that was a 2-day event to help them, especially the newer guys, to get up to speed on some of the regulations and things that to deal with the limited treatment and just an overall distribution system. This should help them with their upcoming exams here in, I believe, the first week in November. So we're big on training. We're big on trying to get everybody knowledge, and this is good not only for their training for the water exam, but it's also good for the township as a whole, just because it kind of helps. It's good to hear what other people do in their systems. And I also been attending, starting today, the Michigan Rural Water Association. They had a conference here in town in Marquette, and I went to that here today. So it's kind of the same thing, just hear what's going on in other communities, kind of getting some updates on up and coming things that might be coming through EGLE and EPA, things that they're going to be looking at. One thing that really stuck out that they were talking about today is emerging contaminants. They always talk about PFAS, but another big one that they were talking about here today was microplastics in the water, drinking water specifically. So I think that's going to be something that all water systems in the United States are going to be looking at here in the next probably 5 to 10 years. And I didn't realize that there's so much. It's not what we're doing, it's just out there in the environment. There's just lots of microplastics floating around in the air, in the water, in the soil, everywhere. So that was kind of eye-opening. On the building and ground side, just routine cleaning of facilities and grounds. They've been kind of doing their winterization. I believe they were working on the sprinkler systems today, getting those all blown out and ready for winter. And they're also raking leaves and just doing general cleanup for the winter time. We also got the Welcome to Marquette Township sign back up on Wright Street. So hopefully that'll be in a good spot there, especially for Board of Light Power. That's one reason why it came down, was they were having a hard time seeing when they pulled out on Wright Street in the previous location. So we think we identified a good spot there that everybody can be happy with. And also rubbish drop-off has been completed for 2025. So that will be starting again in April of 2026. And that's all I have.
We can bring glass up, though, to North Country any
Yes.
time of the day when they're open, and just pull up to the front door, go in and tell them you have glass from Marquette Township. They'll direct you to the back of the building, and they'll let you drop it off anytime. It's not that far from here. Any questions for Lenny? Okay, thanks. Appreciate you joining us.
Thanks. Yep.
Okay, planning report. There's only half a dozen points, so I can read that for you from Jason. At the Wednesday, October 8th regular meeting, the Planning Commission approved a special use permit application for Mount Manufacturing to utilize the former Ride North Best Buy property for their operations. Then staff comments were provided back to our consultant for the draft master plan updates for chapters 7 and 8, and they're currently mapping GIS data issues with future land use map. Commission will also review department heads' proposed 2026 CIP request at their October 22nd meeting, and then a recommendation will be sent here for our budget. Property maintenance enforcement activities have taken place at 760 Lake Enchantment Road, and invoices have been sent to Manager Kangas and the accounting department. Those pictures are amazing. The Planning Commission will be reviewing a site plan amendment to the Shops at Marquette East plan at their October 22nd meeting. Plan calls for an additional 13,000 square feet of retail space north of Texas Roadhouse and Panera Bread. Jersey Mike's has also submitted architectural plans to build out the remaining suite in the Verizon Dunkin' Donut Strip Mall. Administrative review is pending. We've got some stuff going on. Good things. Mr. Attorney, what have you got going on?
Well, the number of things I worked on in the last month is probably less than sometimes, but the time consumption is probably a little more than sometimes. Three things that you're probably most interested in, Jason already touched on. 760 Lake Enchantment Road was cleaned up. The cleanup was finalized yesterday. And the as you'll recall, there are multiple property owners. The property owner who is most responsible for that is back in jail. So we had made arrangements to have a sheriff deputy present, and that was less of a need just in view of those circumstances. But that is cleaned up, at least for the time being, until more things start showing up. We settled both of the pending tax tribunal matters, the Cedarville Townhomes one and the Visions North one, and the consent judgments have been issued on that. In other words, they're not settled until the tax tribunal approves of the settlement, and once in a great while they'll reject one. In this particular case, they were approved almost immediately, and I forwarded copies of those consent judgments. I worked closely with your assessor on that and came to a conclusion that those were both more favorable to the township than if we continued to fight on those, just given the amount of the expense and the retention of an appraisal expert. The Renovari closing, that's been kind of a time consumer this month, but it's a long distance closing because the title company is in Lansing. And as recently as today, that's been ongoing. That is, I would expect that the funds may be released as soon as tomorrow on that. But the closing is occurring. The final steps are in the process of being finished. I had prepared a deed because usually that comes from the title company, usually requests that from an attorney of their choice, and we would be notified of that having occurred, and so I approached them and I did the deed Monday. And I learned in an email at 11 p.m. last night that the content was satisfactory. So that was forwarded and the deed is executed. But there's a process of exchanging the deed and some other documents, a number of documents, and the funds, of course. And that I would expect, barring something unforeseen, that should happen tomorrow. I reviewed the firearm policy quite a while ago. That's in your packet for consideration later this evening. I had one fairly routine zoning procedural question that arose. I reviewed the Cox Water Tower additional equipment, and I think I might have mentioned that at the last meeting already, but that's been kind of an ongoing process. And the good news on that is you'll be getting increased rent. I issued a short letter to the zoning administrator to share with the planning commission. There have been a couple of recent Court of Appeals cases addressing how specific and direct the planning commission's findings should be when they are either approving or denying a conditional use permit or approving it with conditions. Those are the three things the planning commission can do, and the courts have been increasingly strict on enforcing the rigidity of the findings, and the findings should be addressed directly on the record and made part of a permanent record. And I shared that in a copy of one of the recent cases. And that's not a comment on insufficiency of anything the planning commission is doing, but prospectively looking forward on how to tweak what they do when they address conditional use permits. That's what comes to mind. There are probably others out there that crossed my desk, but those are some of the bigger ones.
We crossed your desk a few times this month.
A few.
Yep. Thank you. Any questions for Roger?
I guess I just have one
Sure.
on the water tower. Is that fee negotiable at all? Or do they
The
just come
fee
out and
was-
say $150 and
The
we say,
fee-
okay?
Yeah, the fee was set back in whatever year that was, and I didn't bring that with me, let's say it was 2006, I don't know that it was or wasn't, it's about 20 years ago, I think. And what we negotiated at that time is if you add any new equipment, or if, for example, they like to sublease, once they have their tower, to have other entities, smaller providers, place their equipment on the tower, we negotiated in a clause that allows us to say we want more money if that happens. There are many leases around the state that don't have that ability, so the rates are set at the beginning of the lease, and there is typically a built-in escalation clause that they'll go up like 5% or 10% every 5 years, 8 years, it depends on the particular lease. So, by building that into the original lease about 19, 20 years ago or whenever it was, it does give us some ability to come back and say, well, are you proposing to pay increased rent for the additional equipment you're putting on? If they were going to put a whole new tower, for example, or a bunch of new additional equipment that could potentially stress the structural integrity of the water tank, then that would probably be wide open for negotiation. I have a copy of what they're proposing to add this year, and the added burden, quite frankly, isn't much. It's, you know, you've got a couple little things that they're adding on the tower. So rather than making a demand in this instance, we sent some correspondence saying, gee, I note that we have the right to charge you more, what are you proposing? And Lenny and I spoke and felt that that was probably a reasonable proposal. And it also is, it ties in then to the increase. I want to say it's a 10% increase on this one, but I'm not positive. So the increase that they are proposing on a monthly basis will tie in then for the remaining 5-year terms of that lease. So this fee, instead of being $150 a month, it'll be $165 a month at the beginning of the next 5-year term, and so forth down the road for the life expectancy of the lease.
Yeah, that just came to mind. I thought, where does that $150 come from? Is that negotiable, or, you know, how does that all work out? So,
In theory, yes, it is. In this situation, that's probably a reasonable amount, just based on our experience, on what we've seen elsewhere, when the changes are not very comprehensive at all. Another instance when, there was several years ago, we had to, or we were requested to change the access, the easement, and there was concern, that was, I think, when Public Works may still have been in that building adjacent, and we weren't sure what the future of that was, so we were pretty cautious. But that was another one where it was reasonable to at least talk in a little bit greater depth about what the burden is, and will the rent, should the rent be reconsidered. So it really depends on the impact of what's being proposed in terms of how prudent it is for us to negotiate it. We don't really have the right to flatly say, no, you can't do it, unless it presents some type of a detriment. Another detriment that we were a little bit concerned about is when the fire department moved over there, is are there any signals going to be generated that will interfere with fire department signals and so forth. And to my knowledge, that's never been an issue, but that was something we watched fairly closely, and had it been, then we could have, at least in theory, the right to ask them to either fix it, correct it, or to possibly even vacate the premises because it's no longer compatible with our use of the same property. Similarly, if it's going to impact the use of our water system as a water system, the tank itself, we would have the right to then either, if there was an added burden or there was going to be some type of additional requirement on us, for example, we also negotiated a free fence. Marquette Township didn't pay for the fence that goes around the Comms Water Tower because when we did the first lease, and that's even longer ago, we negotiated in the fencing. And keeping in mind, they want it fenced just as much as we do. I think that was shortly after the 911 scenario when we negotiated in the new fence. So there are opportunities for negotiation, but it just requires some exercise of discretion of when to push it and when not to.
Sure. Thank you.
I remember that when I first got on the board, we were talking about that, adding that on, and it was a big deal. Everybody was worried whether or not it would hurt the water or mess up the tank or.
The one switching coming in.
Yeah, that helps.
And you have 2 leases on that property. This is only one of them.
Any other questions for Roger? Okay, thank you. Elise, you're up. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Desjardins.
Yes, nailed it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hi, everybody. Yes, my name is Elise Desjardins. I'm the Invasive Species Coordinator at the Marquette County Conservation District, where your neighbor is right across the street there. And so just a project update on things we worked through from this summer, a couple pullovers from last fall that we've seen progress on. So I guess starting with a really nice success story, last fall we were able to work with the township to be able to till up and put a native wildflower seed mix down underneath all your solar panels. And I hope through the summer season anybody here noticed a very nice flush of native plants that were blooming. It makes it really low maintenance for all you, that you don't have to be mowing underneath that area and kind of getting in and out of there and everything. And then it was a really cool way to just add in some pollinator habitat. And so we saw that be really successful, and I was very, very happy to see that one be successful. I think in contrast to that, we've been working on a pilot project for a couple of years for the corridor project, as we've been calling it. So we took that same seed mix, I think at least 2 growing seasons ago at this point, and we seeded out a section of the median on the corridor on 41 there. And it did not have the same site prep. There was no tilling involved. We just broadcast seed, and we were going to see how it went. And granted, I have seen a couple black-eyed Susans be able to poke their head up over the last couple of years. We have seen nowhere near the success that we saw with the site prep that was done underneath the solar panels. So I don't think it's an entirely lost cause. I just think that maybe in future, looking ahead, we take in maybe some site prep considerations, seeing that all we did was broadcast seed on top of existing, probably very compacted. We know that there's salt and road grime in that soil, everything else. So maybe, I don't know if we'd have to pull any special permitting with MDOT to do any sort of soil prep, but if we wanted to try again, I think that's certainly on the horizon, and we'd be happy to partner with that, because seeing that work so well, we want to see that be our median, is really nice wildflowers. Let's see, through the spring we were able to plant almost 800 native trees at the BLP property where we have our butterbird project going. Butterbird is an invasive species that I'm working on in the township. It's kind of the weird big plant that looks like a rhubarb, but it's not a rhubarb. So we've been working with NTN, the trail network there, and BLP to kind of bring it back off of the trails and get that native riparian corridor back to native habitat instead of this invasive species present. So we were able to put in almost, I think it was 800 native tree plugs to reforest underneath where we did a lot of treatment in that area. And we also put down a massive native seed mix, same one that went down here, along the big open strip there adjacent to Wright Street where we've done treatment. So we're trying to get invasive species out of that area, see native species come back. That's the kind of the entire purpose of my programming as the invasive species coordinator, is putting native habitats back into the ecosystem. So through the summer, we had our final year and a final push of site visits with landowners. If anybody had requests from us to come check out either for a Butterbur project or just to have other, an assessment done of their property throughout the township to see what else might be invasive, what could be beneficial to plant there, what would do well in shade or sun. And we are happy to say that we visited over 50 different landowners just in Marquette Township alone. So that was really good engagement with the township residents here. And then through the fall, we completed a lot of our treatment season. So that Butterbur I've been referencing gets treated in the fall. So we got that wrapped up in kind of mid-September, and then worked again with the Drain Commission. The drain right behind the gas station here had a patch of what's known as non-native Phragmites. It's a really tall, very invasive grass that was impacting the drain there. So we were able to get a second year of treatment done on that. So yes, been very busy. We've been doing a lot of, like I said, outreach, survey work, making sure that everybody knows who to call if they have problems, and making sure we're there as a resource for the residents and community of Marquette Township. So happy to take questions or chat anything out or anything else. Had a busy summer season. Yeah.
Yours should have been raining yesterday also.
Oh.
The DDA is talking about the roundabout islands
Okay.
on the highway.
Oh yeah.
And the Conservation District was suggested as one of the possible ways to deal with that.
Yeah, that'd
So
be very cool.
we should at least talk about it at some point in the near future.
Yeah, we'd really love to. Those islands, I think, could be really great candidates for getting some native habitat, and
I don't think it'd take that much work.
I don't think so either. Those plantings seem a lot easier than some of the other ones that we've done. So yeah, that'd be really cool.
Okay,
Thanks for
thank
plugging
you.
us. Yeah, happy to take her.
So also one of the things that you didn't mention but could impact all of us is there's lots of education that's provided out of that office.
Yes,
And
definitely.
it's free, so you can
Yes.
go learn about.
So I don't think we had the staff available for community days this year. I was
Oh.
really, really bummed. We've been there the last
wow.
couple of years with you guys, and we just, that date, it seemed to be the perfect day of every single person in our office had a wedding or something to go to. So we were like, oh no. So please keep us on the list. We'd be happy to still be part of community days, and exactly that. We do tons of outreach and education. We've put on a couple different workshops through the season. We're going to do a couple more. We do things like composting workshops, how to plan your gardens, everything else like that. So yes, definitely.
Yeah, they're great.
Thank you.
Do you have something like a newsletter or?
We do.
On your calendar or something
Yeah,
you could share?
we can put, we have a monthly e-newsletter that goes out, so if anybody wants to sign up for that, that's just available, I believe, on our website to say sign me up for the newsletter. And so once a month, you'll get updates of what different staff members of the district have been doing. We have myself as an invasive species coordinator there, we have a forester on staff, a produce safety technician on staff, and then all of our outreach and programming staff as well. So yeah, we're kind of all up to all sorts of different things to make sure that we're available for Marquette County as a resource.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could put that link on our website then. if you
That'd be really
wanna
nice.
talk to
Yeah,
John,
thank you.
could Let them know what
Yeah,
that is.
I'm gonna write that down.
That would be good.
If I don't write it down, it doesn't exist.
We started doing that with the senior center too, so we kind of know what they're doing. So that's another big benefit for seniors, obviously,
Oh,
or
yeah,
their
absolutely.
families.
Yeah,
So
nice.
this would be great, they can share that too.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for having me this
Appreciate you
evening.
coming.
Have a good night.
Okay, community linkage. Few things that I can share with you. Linda did get to the housing summit last week, so that was great. Thanks for sharing that PowerPoint. Excuse me. And as you know, Roger mentioned that the Runabari project is moving forward. The county board did approve it last week for the brownfield. And Mont Manufacturing was gonna tell you about that too, that they had been public hearing last week with planning. I also had a meeting with a few of the county staff and the chair, and we're still talking about carts for the outlying areas or anybody that doesn't have recycling pickup, but they do have curbside, so we're kind of working on that. Fortunately, county planning is gonna kind of take that ball and run with it, and I just said I'm happy to help, but it's nice to kind of get that off my plate, so that'll be helpful. The ZBA had a hearing last week. I don't know, Carl, if you want to mention anything. It was a dome home, and it was a 2-2 vote. And they had 4 people present. I didn't get to hear all the conversation. I had a phone call, I had to step out, so if there's anything you wanted to share. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, I just
Yeah, well,
remembered you were there.
Yeah, 2 of us were for it and 2 weren't, and so it was one of those things that was just trying to jumpstart the new zoning that's gonna come through, because it is gonna change as they start working on it, and so I believe that's what the hope was, is they were just gonna be able to get us earlier start, and because eventually it will fit. It was the size of the home, it was under the 1,000 square foot minimum that's required in Marquette Township. Whereas in the city, you're not required to have 1,000 square feet, at least in some areas, so that's what we were hoping, they were hoping to get it through, but they'll have to wait. Either that, or they can just make it a little bit bigger.
So if I had stayed, I was gonna ask about the tiny home idea, if it could qualify for that, but I found out from Jason that it was too big still for that, because it's like 400 square feet for a tiny home, 4 or 5, and this was 7 something. So it was right in between the two
Yeah.
and didn't qualify. And I think the board members were afraid of doing something ahead of what would be coming.
Right.
They were just being cautious, so we'll see where that goes too. Friday I did an economic summit with LSAP. John was there also. I thought it was outstanding. It was the first one that they've ever had. They had 4 breakout sessions, one for housing, one for employment, one for the air service, and one for energy. And we ended up both going to the housing one, but their speakers were great. They had the Federal Reserve there to talk about local and federal things and the percentages, and it was really a lot of numbers, but it was really interesting to hear. 4 of the legislators, 2 legislators were there and 2 of their reps were there. And then there was a very long inspirational story, I guess you could call it, from a community downstate and what they did in a couple of years to improve their community. And there were some tears in the audience. It was amazing, this fella that spoke about his community and how they changed it and got grants, and that they showed pictures. It was very moving. Let's see what else. The DDA, John can talk about that. He, of course, was there. We also talked about his contract for the next few years. We got that kind of drafted out. I haven't had a chance to read that yet, but I'm sure it'll be right. The solid waste Zoom today was kind of a waste. It was like 15 minutes. I couldn't hear it. My husband bought me a speaker so that I could try to hear. And every time someone spoke up really close, I got blasted out. And of course, when they sat back, then you couldn't hear anything. So I don't know what the answer is. There was a new person on there, and he was texting in, "I can't hear you, speak into your microphones." So, still kind of a challenge. Then tomorrow is the materials management meeting. So I don't have to go to Escanaba. That'll be a work session, which is great. We're going to talk about that survey. You should have gotten it. Please share it with everybody that you can think of in this, in the county, but especially in the township, so they can get good information. And then, just as a heads up, Sands is doing their e-recycling again this week, Saturday, from 10 to 2. So if you have anything you want to drop off, just go drop it off. Just, I think there's like a $5 charge if you have a huge TV or something, but otherwise, most of it's free, because they have rent for that. So, yeah, it's been a busy couple weeks. Anything you're hearing from the public, community, anybody? Nothing? I guess that's good. Everybody's so busy. Okay, let's consider Insight, the Cox Tank site agreement modification that Roger was talking about. Lenny's still on, yep.
So basically, Roger explained it perfectly. So I don't really have too much more to say except to say that they're offering $150 a month.
I would make the motion to approve the lease agreement the work to be performed in the parks tank.
Support.
Okay, any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That was easy.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks. Now you can go. Consider revisions to the firearm requirements while on duty. John and Michelle have just been working on this and cranking it out. A little more comprehensive than what we had before. Some of it recommended by our liability carrier, if I understand right. I don't want to take your thunder if there's something you want to share.
I think what we tried to provide you was a good compromise between what the township's intentions are and what our liability carrier is comfortable with. They typically recommend not allowing carrying, period. And that's just for liability reasons. That being said, I think there's been an understanding here that properly trained individuals might not necessarily be a bad thing, right? So this policy, it goes beyond what the state requirements are for a CPL license. It requires annual not recertification, but demonstration of proficiency. Meaning you've got to go out and fire a few rounds at a target at 7 yards, which is what's required to get your permit in the first place. So if you're bringing that in annually with the time, date, all that, we put it in your file. It demonstrates that you're continuing to be responsible with that privilege. And in return, we don't make you keep it at home. There is a new form. We found out that there wasn't one before, and I'm not sure. I thought I had seen one, but I obviously was imagining that. That does include a form for any board member, so that's up to you whether or not you want to keep that in the form. It's not up to staff to tell you what to do. So I guess you have to decide if you want to keep that in there for board members or not.
What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve the policy as stated with option 2.
Option 1 is to prohibit the use or the carry of concealed firearms on duty. So option 2 is what John just described.
I'll support.
Motion and support. Questions, comments?
So you're saying option 2 says that board members can choose to carry or
That's
not?
only on the form,
Okay,
but it is included as part of option 2.
okay,
So if you approve option 2, it includes the new form.
okay. Because there may be some board members that, right. Speak up there, Dan.
Questions, comments? Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for that. Consider revisions to the disciplinary action policy.
This is just the fallout of the action you just took. Meaning, if we are going to allow this policy that you just approved, there has to be disciplinary action for anyone that intentionally violates policy if you catch them doing that. So that's really what the majority of these revisions are. The only other revision, because we were doing it, we decided to add the portion about unapproved unpaid leave. And that's if an employee uses up all of their paid leave time and then just decides not to come to work one day without getting prior authorization. We're still paying benefits, right? We don't want to just give anybody as much time off as they want with or without pay. We negotiate the paid leave. The unpaid leave has to be for the extenuating circumstances, specifically as protected by law, whether it's Paid Sick Time Act, Fair Labor Standards Act, FMLA, whatever the situation is, we don't want this to be interpreted as if you took your full FMLA and the last half of it was unpaid, that we're coming after you. That's not the case. The case is, if you decide, I'm gonna use up every hour of leave time you gave me and I still wanna take a week off, I'm just gonna take it unpaid. Not without approval. Right? So that's really what these revisions are.
I would make the motion to approve the disciplinary action revisions as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion and support. We've got all the additions in red. You can see that'll end up in my manual. Questions for John? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, back at you is the request for financial support from Marquette County Housing Now. It's pretty self-explanatory. I had it in the packet last month. We didn't have a full board, and it was decided that the full board should decide this. We're gonna spend money. First of all, Roger, do you see a problem with us contributing if the board?
Not specifically. I did a little bit more digging. It does not appear as if they're proposing that any of the funds would be utilized for lobbying, for instance, which could pose some concerns under the Campaign Finance Act, but based on what I was able to determine or glean, I don't specifically see an issue.
These are just recommendations too. You know, the different dollar amounts.
So is this not something we should discuss during budget?
We can, yeah.
Because I don't know if we have money for any of this.
There's no deadline or anything. They're just
Yeah.
reaching out to everybody, and I told
Yeah.
Christopher I'd ask you guys.
Mhm.
Speaking of the budget, I might have mentioned at the last meeting too, I don't think you were here. The partnership is asking some of their basic members, where we fall, it's like $350 a year, I think, or something, to go to the next level. And I said, that's fine, but what would we get for the next level? And do you want to come and address the board? And he said yes, so he will come to one of our 2 work sessions. So that might be a good time to even ask about this, if you want to do that. So that's a good question, thanks. John, were you going to say something? I thought I saw. No? Okay, Roger.
I should also add that although their request is saying they want a commitment for a minimum of 2 years, I would not recommend committing to anything beyond just your next budget year.
Okay.
And there's a long legal explanation for that I'll spare you from, but I would just commit to a 1-year payment if you decide to make any at all.
Okay.
So then I'll make a motion to defer this to January 2026 after the budget hearings are done and our budget is approved.
Support.
Rather than talk about it during the budget?
No, we'll talk about it, but if
Oh.
it's approved,
Okay.
then we can act on it in 2026 in
Sure.
January.
And if you approve the budget and it's included in the budget, it
Then
would
you
be
have a-
done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so that's what we'll do. I'll put it on the next calendar year.
Okay.
So I move that.
Did we have a second?
Yeah, I thought so.
Me.
I wasn't sure. Okay. Questions? Comments?
So right now, we're at what level, 350 a year?
Basic, yeah.
Okay.
It's 350, 360 right in.
And that's for the lakes, that's for
That's
the
different.
partnership. This is
Okay.
different,
Different.
Carl.
Yep,
Okay. Is this the thing that you're on?
yes.
Yeah.
This was the offshoot of the total market analysis that we helped contribute to. That gave us the stats on Trowbridge Park.
So I guess my rationale is we'll talk about it in the budget session to see where our money is. You know, if it's a tight budget, maybe it's not gonna happen. We'll see.
We'll see where we wiggle.
See where the CIP comes.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Priority goals for 2026. Anybody have any thoughts? We can amend this by taking a few things off. Do you wanna, Randy and I were talking yesterday about maybe having a work session and talking about policies, and maybe that would kind of float into the goals, or the goals would come out of talking policies. Because you know that we committed to policy governance a bunch of years ago with the previous supervisor. And some of you might remember that I was doing spreadsheets and the manager was providing reports and looking at this every month and going through our policies. And then the board kind of said, we don't want to do this anymore. It got to be kind of overwhelming. So we did adopt the agenda, kind of in that same format, and followed some of them loosely, kind of like what we do with Robert's Rules of Order. We don't follow it to the T. So when we were kind of chatting about this, he said, well, maybe we should just have a work session and talk about our policies, you know, like November, December, or whenever.
Well, I suggested that we get our budget done first, because that's the main thing. Get the budget done the end of this month, hopefully, and then get it passed in December. And then right away in 26 in January, go after this, because it's going to be holidays and hunting, and I know some of you will be hunting, and some, not all.
The other thing is the master plan will be done by then. And certainly we should be considering what that master plan is telling us for our goals.
So it will be by 26.
It's supposed to be by the end of December. I think I'm looking at John, who knows more than I about that.
It's a 5-year plan, so yes.
Yeah, so we really do want to take into consideration what our residents are telling us in that plan.
So then it lines up perfectly. Then if we get the master plan at the end of this year, we can sit down in early January then, and I'd like to go over the goals and the policy governance, because there's things we can just throw out of that we just don't do, so.
You need a motion?
We don't need a motion, we just need to I'll just make a motion to put this back on the agenda on January, the first meeting in January of 2026.
Be the 7th, January 7th agenda.
Okay.
Was there support?
Yeah.
Questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, rec committees might meet next week. They haven't met, yes, no agenda, no things to consider. We lost all our public. Any announcements from anybody?
I have a couple things from the planning commission meeting. Jason did address many of the items, but I just want people to be aware that we are still on our agenda looking at the wetland ordinance, and that will be coming to you hopefully in January, if not sooner. That's really important before the building season starts, to have that updated and correct. The other one we're looking at is the limited animal keeping, and that's to do with chickens and bees and all those wonderful things that we all love. And that will be the second one we will be working on. So that's where we are at, and that's kind of exciting, and along with what Jason had to say.
So my announcement is there is no elections in Marquette Township this November. And I put it on the website pretty front and center, because if there was, the folks that had absentee ballots would have them by now. Actually, but they'd get them in the early October, but, so what we're looking at is possibly a May election next year. That would be a school, millage election if we move forward. If they move forward with that, it will be a reimbursement election, so we'd front the money and get reimbursed, so it would be a budget amendment. And then we have August primary, and then we have a November midterm next year, so. Me and my staff will be, getting ready up for next year. We're already making sure supplies are ordered and we got enough to go, so. Cause I hate to, get to that point where, oh, I need some more envelopes and everyone else in the state needs them. So, we'll be doing that. So, other than that, that's the only thing on the clerk's department. No election this year.
I was gonna ask you about something on the MTA thing today, but I lost it. That's okay, it was about a survey for clerks, a one-question survey. Let's see, hold on. I left it open so I wouldn't have
If
to
it was a
remember.
clerk survey, I'm sure I got it.
I'll find it, it's no biggie. Manager's report, anything to report, John?
Well, you had mentioned the DDA, and I think we already covered the roundabout maintenance. I think that would be a good DDA project, and they seem interested and may even have the ability to do something about it next year, so stay tuned on that. We might be able to see some more pleasing visuals as you enter the township, especially from the west or exit heading west. The other thing that they are proposing to do next year, and we will be talking about it during budget work sessions also, is street name signs. A lot of them that we have, we've been just replacing one or two at a time as they weather or disappear. Some of them are very difficult to read. The goal would be to replace all of them township-wide next year. And the DDA would fund those that are within their boundary. It would be 6-inch lettering, retro reflectivity that meets the current standards. So if you have your brights on, the reflection of your lights are gonna actually blind you off of those signs. That's just the way it is, because eyesight's getting worse and worse these days, and that's the new standard. Another project the DDA wants to see happen is a non-motorized facility along Commerce from Venture as far as 492. Whether it makes sense to go that far, I guess, remains to be seen, but that is an objective. And that's kind of it from the DDA perspective. There's a couple projects they removed from their list. One was named the Cox Farm Trail, which would have been on private property. The private property owner said, we don't want it. Well, a lot of them said that, and that's kind of the end of that project. The other one was the proposed park property up here that's now owned by the state Michigan Veteran Homes for the Jacob Eddy Center. That one's being removed as well from their priorities. Other than the DDA, I did have a conversation this week, or was it last, with Alex Elsenheimer, he's the county highway engineer, about the Fair Avenue project that's coming in the next round of small urban funds that will happen in the township, and I can't remember what year he said. I want to say next year, but that doesn't seem right because we just had Ontario Phase 3 last year. The objective is to incorporate as much of that non-motorized master plan into that project as possible. Anyone that drives Fair Avenue knows that there's several areas where there's guardrail that really limits the width of the road surface itself. So having a full width side path all the way into the city is probably unrealistic, but we do think it'll be pretty easy to run a pathway from Ontario to the Vanderbilt School, for instance, and then maybe try to widen the shoulders by striping narrower lanes or something like that to give a safer bike lane on each side, which is also going to be used by pedestrians. So that's something we're trying to incorporate into that project. Today I did an interview and attended a portion of the Michigan Infrastructure Office's presentation on elective pay. You may recall, if you were listening to the terminology, that's how we got our $29,000 rebate for the solar project. So I did an interview. I was hoping Lynn was going to be able to do one, but they had to get lunch or something. I guess people don't want to be hangry any more than I do. So did the interview. There will be a video at some point. Hopefully I was fairly accurate with all of my statements, but we'll get to see it at some point and maybe even put it on our website to explain how that whole thing happened. And then their presentation later in the day was to other interested parties in going down this route to use this rebate program to get one of their own projects partially funded. And you'll also recall we did receive a 40% rebate. And the reason it went from 30% to 40% is because of the 2 coal plants that were retired in the county. So, one other thing that we might as well just talk about right now, in my new contract, there is an item in there about setting goals annually. I'm asking that they be SMART goals. And if you're not familiar with that terminology, I can tell you real briefly. It is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Priority goals that the township sets is probably a really good spot because that's generally your annual policy, loosely speaking. And if you can put SMART goals on that for me and my staff through me, I think it will really help us focus on meeting your objectives every year. Otherwise, I don't think there was any real hang-up with contract negotiations unless it comes here and one of you or more of you have objections to what's being proposed.
Any questions for John?
I just wanted to ask, it's been a few months, on those deer crossing signs, did that ever get resolved? They're done.
Oh, yeah.
They're up.
We actually got an extra set for free on South Vandenboom.
That's what I thought. So they're on Vandenboom, are they not on Grove then?
The ones that were supposed to go on Grove somehow ended up on Vandenboom.
Okay.
And then we said, hey, we asked for Grove, and then they put them on Grove too.
Oh,
I
okay.
think we only got billed for the 4 we asked them.
And they're on Warner too.
Correct.
Good, okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else?
No crosswalks though.
I saw the deer trying to read them the other day.
Yeah. See which way?
Those were the hand-painted ones
Yeah. They're still
that
there.
are still there. Yeah.
I found this, Randy. It says, MTA sent a survey to clerks seeking information on if their township provides local law enforcement coverage to residents.
I think I'll defer that to someone else.
It says, please respond as soon as
To my
possible."
left.
It doesn't give you a link. Usually they're good about links or
I'm sure I'll get
who
it.
to talk to, but
Yeah.
this was from Friday. Because there's there's funding for public service or safety, you know,
Well,
so maybe that's why. It's supposed to be in the new budget. 8 million to assist with fire equipment or gear. 4 million to be distributed to local units of government for on-call, part-time volunteer fire departments. So I know Mike is really good about looking at grants and staying on top of that, so usually when I send this stuff forward to Dan, he goes, yeah, we already know. So, that's good. Anything else for John? Okay, thanks. Any motions? We have a few.
yeah, the first motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented. That was approved. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda as presented. That was approved. The third motion was to approve the Cox Tank Verizon Tower agreement modification, and that was approved. Fourth motion was to approve, to revise the firearm requirements while on duty policy, and that was approved. Fifth motion was to approve the revisions to the disciplinary action policy. That was approved. The sixth motion was to approve, or actually, no, was to move the financial support for the Marquette County Housing Now to the first meeting in January. That was approved. And the seventh motion was to approve the 2026 priority goals to that first meeting also in January, and that was approved.
Okay, thank you. So nothing special for the next agenda that I know of. Unless somebody else has something. So this is a long month. We don't meet again until November 5th. Any comments to share? Anything closing?
I have a couple
closing
things.
arguments?
Maybe I should have said this under comments from residents, but someone asked me about shredded paper, and they were told that it cannot be recycled in our recycle can. So I'm going to follow up and call out there.
I can tell you what.
I'm going to still,
Yeah, you
yeah,
can.
I'm going to call them because,
I called them because I didn't know what to do with it. If you just put it in a brown paper bag and put
okay,
shredding and then staple it,
yep.
they'll throw it in.
Okay, I'm gonna give them a call though, because that was a business asking that. The other thing, and I'm gonna encourage residents to particularly do this, but your 2 cans for the hauler, the waste trash recycle hauler, need to be 3 feet apart. And the reason is that if they're too close together, it's hard to pick them up, and when they drop them, they're gonna fall. So please put them 3 feet apart. I did share that with a resident when I was walking the other night, and he didn't know that. So maybe we can target that again.
It's on the back of the address.
I know where it is, yeah, I'm gonna like get, rewards for people that do it right, okay? A chocolate chip cookie or something, I don't know.
A star.
A star, I don't know what it is, but maybe they'll get their name on our webpage or something. The other thing is, I find it, I only heard, and I guess, Roger, can you tell me who went to the Tracks Tribunal besides Curranville, Cedarville?
Cedarville and Visions North, the
Visions North, and who is that?
Right across the street.
Heidi Johnson.
Heidi Johnson, so, okay, just so people know that they are going back. They had gone once and this was a second or third time.
Cedarville Townhomes was a repeat, Visions North was not.
So Visions North is the first time. Okay, just so our residents know. I guess that's it.
I do have one thing, Lynn. Before our next meeting, we're gonna have to go back an hour again. I wish it would have stayed the same, but Congress can't do anything right now, unfortunately, but, so make sure you check your fire alarms and smoke detectors, because that's pretty important on that time. We usually check them when you have that hour back, so. And it will be light in the morning and dark in the evenings, so back to that.
Yeah, and think of that with Halloween coming up too. Let's always be aware who's out that night.
And
We usually go out during the day, or, the lights, but
actually, this year, it's November 2nd, so it doesn't, of course, it's after Halloween.
Okay.
And Marquette area public schools will be dismissing at noon on that day.
Halloween.
So
yeah.
just so people know, your trick-or-treaters may be coming a bit earlier. Yeah,
Good to know.
yeah, noon.
What else? Any other comments? Okay,
I'd like to make one final motion.
all
And
right.
we adjourn.
Gosh, I don't know what we'd do without you.
I'll support
Just
that.
stumbled
I'll
on
support
this
it
meeting. We
tonight.
just sat here.
I know it.
Lost.
I watched it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned at
That's a big
6:39.
dilemma. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?